He spent his entire life believing he wasn't enough. Not strong enough. Not disciplined enough. Not worthy enough. And maybe that's why this story hurts more than people realize. Because most people don't hate others. Most people hate themselves. They speak kindly to friends. They forgive strangers. They encourage people who are struggling. But when it comes to their own reflection, they become cruel. They become ruthless. They become the one voice that never stops saying, "You should be better. You should be more. You are not enough." And that's exactly what makes Po's story so powerful. Because beneath all the jokes, the action, and the Kung Fu Panda is secretly about self-hatred. But that's not what this story is really about. It's about what happens when someone spends their entire life trying to earn the right to love themselves. And why that never works. At the beginning of the film, Po is a dreamer. He works in his father's noodle shop. He watches warriors from a distance. He admires greatness. But he never truly believes he belongs anywhere near it. The first thing we learn about Po isn't that he's overweight, or clumsy, or inexperienced. It's that he already sees himself as lesser. Before anyone criticizes him, he criticizes himself. Before anyone tells him he doesn't belong, he's already convinced. Most people know this feeling. Maybe you've looked around at successful people and thought, they have something I don't. Maybe you've walked into a room and immediately felt smaller than everyone else. Maybe you've spent years believing confidence is something other people are born with. And that's where Po begins. Not with failure. But with shame. Then something impossible happens. Po is chosen as the dragon warrior. Suddenly he gets the thing he always wanted: recognition, importance, validation, the chance to become someone special. And for a moment, it feels like everything should change. But it doesn't. Because getting chosen doesn't remove self-hatred. It just exposes it. One of the most important scenes in the entire movie is when Po struggles through training. On the surface, it looks like a comedy sequence. A student failing. A teacher becoming frustrated. A mismatch between expectation and reality. But psychologically, something much deeper is happening. Po isn't just failing kung fu. He's trying to become someone else. He's trying to erase himself. He believes the version of himself that exists right now is unacceptable. So every failure becomes evidence. Evidence that he's not worthy. Evidence that everyone was right. Evidence that he's fundamentally broken. And this is where many people get trapped. They don't pursue growth because they love themselves. They pursue growth because they hate themselves. There's a huge difference. One path leads to healing. The other leads to exhaustion. Because if your motivation is self-hatred, no achievement will ever feel like enough. Then the film quietly changes. Most people completely miss what this scene is doing. Shifu discovers that Po is motivated by food. At first, it seems like a joke. But symbolically, it's one of the most important moments in the story. Because for the first time, someone stops trying to turn Po into somebody else and starts understanding who he already is. That's the difference. Every previous training method assumed Po needed to become like everyone else. Faster. Smaller. More disciplined. More traditional. But growth doesn't happen when we reject ourselves. Growth happens when we work with who we are. Shifu finally sees Po. Not as a mistake. Not as a failed version of someone else. But as himself. And suddenly Po begins improving. Not because he's pretending anymore, but because he's finally allowed to be real. Think about how often people do the opposite. They spend years trying to become a version of themselves they think others will approve of. The perfect body. The perfect career. The perfect personality. The perfect life. And sometimes they even achieve it. But something still feels empty. Because they built a life around approval instead of authenticity. It teaches a different lesson. Your greatest strength might be hiding inside the parts of yourself you've spent years trying to remove. The dangerous part is that self-hatred makes those strengths invisible. When you hate yourself, you stop seeing what makes you unique. You only see flaws. Then comes the dragon scroll. The moment everyone has been waiting for. The ultimate secret. The answer. The thing that will finally make everything make sense. Po opens the scroll. And there's nothing inside. Just a reflection. At first glance, it feels like a joke. But psychologically, it's devastating. Because the entire movie has been building toward the same realization. There is no secret ingredient. No hidden power. No magical transformation. No moment where you suddenly become worthy. You've been looking at the answer the whole time. It's you. Not a future version of you. Not an improved version. Not a perfected version. You. Right now. And maybe that's the lesson hidden inside Poe's journey. The lesson hidden beneath every punch, every joke, every training sequence. You don't become worthy after you transform. You transform after realizing you were worthy all along. The scroll was empty. Yet somehow it contained everything. A reflection. A reminder. A truth most people spend their entire lives trying to learn. You are not waiting to become enough. You are already enough. The question is whether you'll ever allow yourself to believe it.